program and funded through the Clean Streams Fund. In fact, 70% of the Clean Streams Fund is dedicated to ACAP, or $154 million for ag BMPs. It's a historic funding opportunity for us to really make a big impact with water quality goals and sustainable farming practices. But since that time, the commission has been hard at work. Justin and Eric and everyone developing program guidelines, required output measures, determined county apportionments, and distributed delegation agreements, which Justin will update you. We're starting to get some of them back, but it's been a hustle, and it will continue to be a hustle as the deadline to commit the funds now is now just at the end of next year, 2024, and the deadline to spend 2026. But we're fully committed to being there with you every step of the way to make sure this program is a success. We appreciate your partnership very much, and we value the hard work that you do. So with that, I don't want to take up a lot of time. I think Justin wants to do some introductions as well here, but I'll turn it over to him. And thanks again for participating today.
Thanks, Doug. Eric, I think, has the agenda up. Hopefully everybody can see that. Yeah, welcome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody joining in this morning and taking some time to talk ACAP with us. I'd like to announce that Eric Cromer has officially been promoted to a Conservation Program Specialist 2. He will oversee the 6 new ACAP staff, ACAP CEG staff that are hopefully coming on board within a couple months. They're still in the HR drain waiting to be posted, so we're working through that right now, trying to get those jobs up and running. But we also have Amy Ewing has started with us. She's our management tech. Hopefully you guys have been receiving some emails from her regarding some other programs. But Amy, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hi.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and part of this team, and looking forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, so look forward to seeing updates. Amy will be in touch with you about updates with the program. She's going to help with making payments in the system. She's going to assist with contracting and just general overall assistance with both the ACAP CEG side of the commission, as well as the technical assistance, REAP, AgriLink, that kind of side of the commission as well. So hopefully you'll hear a lot from Amy soon. Moving on, as Doug mentioned, the delegation agreements all went out. Everyone should have received one at this point. I emailed them out at the end of December. We are starting to get those come back in. We have roughly, I think we have almost 10 at this point that are back signed. Doug has signed those. From there, they go on to legal counsel here at PDA. Once they sign off on it, they'll go to the comptroller's office, in which they'll get all the money will actually get encumbered to your contract. They'll sign it, give us all the numbers we need, and then after that, we will make advance payments. So hopefully before too long, those that have their agreements in now will start getting their advance checks. So thank you to all those who, went ahead and worked ahead and got those done and got them to me right away. I really appreciate it. I'm hearing back from a lot of other districts that they have meetings later this month and they're anticipating entering into the agreement. So I look forward to getting those agreements so we can get the money moving. Does anybody have any questions on delegation agreements or the forms or anything?
Justin, this is John in Cambria County. I have a question. I know there's the 2-year spending limit from when we receive the funds. So we get our advanced, our 50% advance of the first allocation. We have 2 years from when we get that to spend that amount of money, not our full allocation for that fiscal year, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that as we probably get our replenishments, then that will just kind of keep track as to when we receive the money.
Yeah.
I was just concerned it'd be like the dirt and gravel road where it's like 2 years from that start of that fiscal year, and then I'm like, that could
No, I'm
pose
pretty
some
sure we
concern.
said receipt of the money. Eric, can you we can double check that for you, but I'm pretty sure we said once you get the money, because we didn't know when we wrote the delegation when that was going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Doug, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick question, Justin and Eric. I think we had said that a target to get those delegation agreements back to us would be the end of January. That would be preferred if possible, just to keep things moving from the funding side. Is that an accurate timeline, or what are your thoughts on that?
We didn't set a firm deadline. We asked to get them back as soon as possible. We understand that that we didn't want to set a firm deadline yet, and tell them like, hey, we need these by this date. It will, we will have to come to that here before too long, but we wanted the districts to have ample time to, they just got the finalized agreement end of December, so we didn't want to set firm deadlines, knowing they probably would only have one meeting to really talk about it. So you're right. At some point, Doug, we will have to set, hey, we need to know an answer here, soon. But we don't have that set at this point. That's something we can discuss, and figure out when we really need to have that an answer from the districts.
Okay, that sounds good. And obviously, if the boards have any questions or concerns related to that delegation agreement, don't hesitate to reach out to Justin and Eric or me if there's, specific questions that we can help address.
Yeah, and by all means, if you have a meeting you would like one of us to either be there or try to join remotely, it'd be better to do it remotely. I'd be happy to do that. I'm sure Eric can help out with that as well. Um, we'll try to get your board or you the answers you need, or talk over any concerns or anything you'd like to discuss. By all means, just get a hold of us and we'll make it all possible. We'll get there to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. As I mentioned earlier, we have new positions that are hopefully will be posted before too long. We're looking at 4 regional commission ACAP employees, as well as 2 based out of Harrisburg. And those people would be all working under Eric. So that's 6 SEC staff that will be spread out across the state that will help with all things administration. I'm hoping they'll be trained up on technical assistance stuff as well. We can get them running on that and helping with all facets of ACAP. If you guys have any recommendations for us on things you think that those employees should focus on, by all means, send them on to me, and we'd be glad to consider anything you guys need help with that we can have them focus on, especially in the short term, once they're, right when they're up and running, things that we could get them helping you with. That would be nice to know.
Yeah, just to that point, Justin, adding to that, I mean, we certainly understand that one of the biggest risk factors here is the staffing and technical assistance side of getting this work done. So whatever that staff can do to be helpful to you all, whether it be the administrative side or more technical side, you let us know, and we're committed to having those positions be very useful for what you're doing.
Yep. The next topic, Eric is working diligently on getting our ACAP webpage update. Eric, do you want to give any update on that, where you're at, timelines?
Yes, I'm in the middle of creating the content for the cover page. This will be hosted at the PDA website under the State Conservation Commission. It'll look very similar to all the other programs that we run, all their web pages. So it'll have some informational stuff there. And then on the sidebars, you'll probably find some documents that'll be useful for not only the districts, but maybe an applicant that might be looking for information. So that's we're looking to have that up within 2 weeks is what we're hoping for. If that doesn't come to fruition, I wouldn't see it being any longer than 3 weeks. So,
and if there's any documents or anything you need from us and you can't find it, by all means, call Eric or I or Amy, send us an email, and we will make sure you get what you need. If we don't have it, we'll add it to our list and we'll work on it, but don't sit around waiting for that website to get up and running. If you need something, please reach out to us, and we'll make sure you get it. I know it might take a week or two to get it up and running, but that's really where we'll host a lot of the documents in the short term, especially like these recordings. We'll put those on there for these meetings. And eventually I see that transitioning over to like this, once we have the center fully up and running and they have a website, kind of similar to Dirt and Gravel Roads, keep everything in one central location at Penn State on their website, where everybody can find it. So that's more of a long-term, 6 months out, but in the short term, we'll get this a web page running here and get the documents on there for you. Let's see, what's next? The ACAP Center Subcommittee of the Technical Work Group met, guess that would have been last week we met. So it would have been NRCS, DEP, of course the SEC, couple districts, to really start to sit down and hash out, short term, what can we do to get the center running, and what can we do, like what can the center start focusing on immediately. And we all kind of agreed that trainings were a very hot topic, very important to everybody to start get trainings running. We're working on obviously a contract between the commission and the center Penn State. We're looking at a GIS system housed at Penn State, similar to the Dirt and Gravel Road program. After we did have an overall advisory committee last week where we talked GIS. The general consensus of what I heard during that meeting was that they like the Dirt and Gravel Road system, where it's a one-stop shop for quarterly reporting, completion reports, funding, locations of BMPs, projects. So we're working towards that right now. Hopefully we'll have that going as soon as we get the center going. As far as reporting goes, we're thinking right now we're going to have to do a interim like paper reporting until that GIS is up and running. But the way it seemed working with Penn State that they could probably have that in not too terribly long, like 6 months was a decent goal to have that up and running. So we will stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on that. Any questions? Center, GIS, webpage, anything?
Yeah, Justin, this is Jeff. Is the reporting then going to be like a dual report out of Practice Keeper also, or is it just?
Great question. No, we're thinking, and the way it's hashing out right now, we're going to have a one-stop spot for you guys to enter all the data, and then the Penn State GIS system will export to Practice Keeper the information they need for like DEP reporting and Bay and all that credit stuff.
Okay, thanks.
So that's what we're hoping. It seemed feasible after talking to the programmer. He seemed like it was okay. He was going to reach out to Practice Keeper to make sure that would all work. So yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thanks.
Yeah, our goal is to not have two places for you guys to enter info. We want one straight, easy to use system. So what we're trying to get to. Any other questions up to this point?
Just adding to that, Justin, that with this technical assistance center that we're talking about creating, I think there's a lot of potential. We have certainly some needs in the short term, but longer term, I think there's a lot of potential for this center to do a lot of good and, train the next generation of people who will probably enter the conservation field. And we're even talking about an apprenticeship program as well through our Department of Labor and Industries program that they have, workforce development, where there could be some type of program either in high school or in college or both, where there could be a lot of on-job training, and there may be a part for that to fit into this center eventually. But we'll definitely keep you posted. But it's pretty exciting to be able to think about the center longer term, building capacity for districts and for private consultants or whoever.
Yep, thanks, Doug.
Justin?
Yeah.
Oh, Sorry, this is Ian and Butler. Is there a draft application and ranking sheet out yet?
Yes, we will get all those draft forms out to everybody as soon as this call's over. Eric, can you add that to our list of things to do?
Yeah, and we're going to have legal take a look at the application and the grantee district agreement just for them to get an eye on it and maybe give us some recommendations. So we're going to have to send that through them first before we can get a final draft out. But we'll definitely get you guys a draft out.
Yeah, we have a whole list of documents Eric put together. We'll get them to this mailing list as soon as this call's over. So thanks, Ian. Okay, moving on to current issues. You guys all should have received an invite to a prevailing wage webinar. I was lucky enough to work with labor and industry and get that meeting moved to the afternoon. So it'll be January 26th at 1 p.m. Presenters will be Eric and I, as well as labor and industry. They've said they'll put together a presentation. If you have specific prevailing wage questions, can you please send them to me ahead of time as soon as possible? That way I can start incorporating the answer to those, and I can get them to labor and industry. That way they're not trying to answer questions like on the cuff that, they might have to research some stuff. So the more questions you get to me ahead of time, the better that webinar will be. I do have a set kind of thing we can talk about, but I know mixing funds with NRCS is a hot topic. We'll have them talk about that. If there's any district out there now that is doing that, like doing NRCS projects and mixing it with prevailing wage, if you could, we'd appreciate it if you would speak to that at that meeting. I think the districts generally across the state get more out of hearing from their counterparts than they do listening to me talk or Eric. So I think that would be beneficial for us and everybody in the state. If there's anybody out there doing that now, we would really appreciate it. So let us know. We'll get you built into the webinar. Any questions on that? Okay. So bidding. Bidding has been a rabbit hole for Eric and I, and Doug. We've gone round and round and round and round at this point. So to bring you up to speed where we're at right now, we met with EPA to hear how they handle federal bidding requirements. They basically said the thresholds that we had found, the three main thresholds, were how they handle it. They recommended that we meet with whoever does procurement at the state level. Just to give you an idea, what EPA said, after like a $250,000 project, they fall back on state procurement or bidding requirements. So that led us to a meeting with the Office of General Counsel at General Services. We talked to her for a while, worked out a lot of issues with her, and told her, how the program works and, how this is we all see it shaping out. And she recommended we meet with our legal counsel at PDA to talk over some details. We did that, and now we're waiting on just a final determination from them on how we should proceed. But we're thinking at this point, the commission may have to pass a simplified bidding requirement that covers just some general points for public bidding over 250,000. But again, we will draft that. If that's what is required, we'll draft it out. We'll run it through our advisory committee before we take it to the commission for their final determination. But we're hoping we can set some very easy, loose bidding requirements for those projects that we can then follow. So again, that's waiting final legal determination. Doug, Eric, anything you guys want to add on that?
No, I think you covered it. Just the key there is we want to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, we've had a journey getting to this point to figure out, what those federal bidding requirements would be. And as Justin mentioned we had conversations with EPA, who told us that for projects estimated over 250,000, that it defers to state guidelines. And then, we got some feedback from experts at Department of General Services on bidding. So we're hoping to package this into something that's very user friendly for you all. But as Justin mentioned, legal is looking it over currently, and we'll get that out to you here shortly, but hoping that it's something easy to administer. That will certainly be our push.
Yep, for sure. We do have a district on the line here, Eric, that put together a little presentation or discussion points on how they currently handle bidding in CEG. Is that right, Eric?
Yep. They are required by their county to bid every project that's over, I think, maybe $22,000. So they have a little bit of history of how they do their bidding and everything like that. And we here at the State Conservation Commission thought it'd be a good idea to just bring a fellow district on board here and give a little bit of presentation of how they handle their bidding policy and how they go about that, just to try to ease some of maybe the anxiety that maybe districts are having, that, oh, we're going to have to bid these projects. It's going to take a lot of time and things like that. So, but I believe Carl Gosselin is on here today, and he's going to take over. And as soon as I get this document up for you, Carl, you can go ahead and take over.
All right. Good morning, Justin and Eric. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
I can hear you. And thanks again for doing this. We appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Our county, we were asked by Eric and Justin to put something together. Our county has required us to have sealed bids for projects over 22.5. That figure comes from, because we're class 3 county. I don't know all the details of it, but that's kind of their threshold, anything above it. So we've been bidding that when it comes to CEG projects. So we have a little bit of experience. We're not experts, but we're learning as we go for sure. But I just wanted to cover a few pointers that what we do and what we've learned. We've had some hard lessons that we've learned too. The first thing is to set up the dates for a site showing. It's always good to have a site showing so the contractors can go out there and see the project and get a feel before they place a bid. And then we set the dates for the deadlines for the bids to come in. And then we have a date for the bid opening. So you got to have several dates in place before you even start working and having the bids come in. So then we advertise it, in the paper, and to make sure it's legal and everything. So we do all that, and administrative expenses for that. Administrative money covers the expenses you have for any kind of advertisement and things like that. For a site showing, we try to have the landowner and engineer there. So if a contractor has questions, they can answer that. When it comes to the bid opening, we have our solicitor actually at the bid opening. He does the official opening. Now, I would recommend, if you can't get obviously your solicitor, maybe the district manager, maybe the chairman, somebody official to open the bids. And I would recommend at least 2 people there, so there's no one can question any changes of bids or anything. So you at least have 2 officials from the conservation district there when it comes to the bid opening. So, and to let you know, we have had people from the public come to a bid opening. And the one gentleman even admitted, he goes, he was just a nosy neighbor and he wanted to see what the bids were. So you do have to be kind of official. We have a sign-in sheet for everyone attending, so you know who's there. But we have, and our planning department actually had public attend the bid opening for their CAP project. So you might have public attend. In the newspaper, we put the advertisement in the legal notices section, probably a week, 10 days before the actual site showing, so everything's legal there. Then when it comes to preparing the bid documents for the contractor, you might have blueprints that you need to take to a printer and print out the blueprint documents, and the bid sheet and the list of BMPs should be on that bid sheet. And what Eric put on the screen now is an envelope that we also give out as a bid package for the contractors to put their bids in this envelope. And the reason we are starting to do this now is we learned a hard lesson by contractors sending in a sealed bid in an envelope that didn't have it marked, that it was a sealed bid, and we had staff open the envelope. So we felt in order to prevent this in the future, we need to do, give them the envelopes so they can mail it in if they wanted, but we're recommending that they actually drop it off because Postal Service is not very reliable these days, and we actually had one CEG project where the contractor would have had the lowest bid, but it came in a day late. So we're giving out envelopes with our bid package, and we're recommending, not requiring, but recommending they drop it off at the office to make sure it gets there on time. At the site showing, what we've found is, when you have the contractors there and you get a lot of questions, there's sometimes where we get some questions. They say something's missed. Let's say some BMP is missed. Let's say spouting or something wasn't listed for a heavy use area, and we've had something similar to that happen. So we make sure that any contractor that we gave the bid package to also gets the same information that was discussed at the site showing. So everyone's on an equal playing field when it comes to placing their bids. The bid opening, it must be sealed. And number 6 on bid opening here, bids must be on a bid sheet, the listing of the bid sheet. We have all the BMPs and everything. The one thing that we found that we have one contractor, we were bidding 2 manure pumps, and he put 3 on there. So we had to eliminate the 1. So you got to definitely check the bid sheet to make sure they bid the right things. We actually have one that the calculations were wrong. He had the different BMPs, but then he did one of the calculations was a little bit off. So you got to make sure everything's correct that they presented. We found these issues when it comes to that. Then we take it to the board for approval, all the bids, and then the landowner's got to make that decision. If he wants what contractor he wants to go to. Right now, our policy does allow for a farmer to decide on a contractor that may not be the lowest bid, but we're only paying our cost share amounts on the lowest responsible bid. So I don't know, Justin, Eric, how you look at things with ACAP. Is it going to be a requirement that you go with the lowest bid or not? I guess that's a decision that has to be made. But locally right now, they are allowed to go with maybe the highest contractor. Maybe they have a relationship with them in the past or something, but our cost share is still based on the lowest bid.
Yeah, great question, Carl. And if we go the route of writing our own requirements, that's something I could see writing in there. I think that's a great idea. Of course, it would have to go through legal to make sure they're okay with it, but I like it. I think Eric would like that too. I think it's a good idea. So thanks.
Yeah, we ask our solicitor, we're like, are we allowed to do that? Are you okay with that? He goes, as long as your board, you have policy that allows that. He goes, I'm okay with that. He goes, you don't have to go with the lowest bid, but the cost share should be based on the lowest bid. So number 9, what we have the farmer sign. Obviously, we have a contract between the farmer and us. We also at that time have them fill out a W-9 form because our controller's office in January will send out 1099s for any amount of money that's paid over $600, and obviously that's going to be everyone. They will get a 1099 in the mail, and we as part of our contract right now, it states in there that farmer will be getting a 1099, so it's not a surprise. You should let them know up front. And we have farmers ask us questions how to handle that money, and say, well, we're not accountants. Your accountant should be able to tell you or handle how to handle the money that comes in for your cost share of the BMPs. We have a prevailing wage form, and I think the commission, you're creating one here for ACAP, but we created one. We worked with NRCS and created a prevailing wage form, basically that's saying that we have the landowner and the contractor sign saying they know that prevailing wage has to be paid on this project. So we have that in the file so they know it's not a surprise to them. Also, we have a form, and maybe you'll have this also for ACAP, where if an engineer, private engineering or a TSP is in charge of the project and we're not going to be the ones signing off on it, we have them sign a form stating that they are responsible, the engineer is, for the construction oversight and signing off on the project when it's done. So that's all signed ahead of time. So it's not a surprise. We don't want to be at the end of the project them saying, well, you guys need to sign off on this. So this is all clear up front, and they know and they sign off on saying that they will be responsible and signing off on that. The last note, which caught the project by surprise here this summer, it was a CAP project, and the farmer already had a storage, and then they were getting another storage built, and it was over 2.5 million gallons. Well, only a couple months before the project was supposed to start, that the engineer discovered that it's going to be over this, and a water quality permit from DEP was required. And so they had luckily, DEP was pretty fast in the turnaround time to issuing the permit, so it didn't really affect the starting time of the project. So that's something to keep in mind. We're getting all this money. You might have a big site, so you may need not only NPDES permit. We've had a number of these projects require an NPDES permit because it's over an acre, but also this water quality permit that you're probably not, and we weren't familiar with, may be needed also on the bigger projects. The one thing with this bidding, I know some people might be concerned it might delay the projects. We haven't really experienced really a delay by this bidding requirement. You just plan for it, plan ahead, and things seem to they have run smoothly so far. But like I said, you run into things that you discover, like contractors sending it in a regular envelope, and we open it, stuff like that. You live and learn, and that's why we've kind of adjusted some things. And I'm sure we'll be learning more as we go, but that's just with a handful of CEG projects, and we've learned to adjust on what was needed on those. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Carl, real quick, did you say 22,000 is your
Yeah,
cutoff?
ours is 22.5, and the solicitor said that's something to do with county law or something because of our class, that anything over that that comes into the county has to be sealed
Okay.
bids. Yeah.
Carl, you mentioned one of the people bidding had some errors on it. Are you allowed to correct those, or do you have to disqualify that bid?
No, we are corrected because, like I said, they had the BMP totals right. This is what we ask them. We call and ask them. They had, and we're like, your total is wrong, and so we corrected that, and that was okay. It's just they added up wrong, so they had the proper. We asked them, this is what you have for this BMP. And they're like, yeah. And we're like, well, the total, you added it up wrong. So we were able to change that. And that was no problem.
Okay. But what about the guy that put in 3 pumps instead of 2? Are you allowed to, like, I guess what's the threshold for fixing mistakes?
We just took that third pump out because on our bid sheet, we had specific details of what pumps that we're accepting bids for. And for whatever reason, they added a third one. So we called them and we eliminated that. And they were a little bit confused because it's a large project. And I think maybe NRCS was paying for this pump and they included it in our bid, but it wasn't supposed to be there. So we just eliminated that and went with the prices they had for the 2 pumps.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Carl, this is Doug. Good information. Much appreciated. Any concerns ever with having contractors to bid? Have you ever had projects that have gone up for bid and you just don't get the right number of contractors bidding? I know that might be a situation maybe in other parts of the state more so than Cumberland, but just wanted your thoughts on that.
Luckily, we have had a bid for every project, but I can see that being a concern because there have been several where we only have one contractor. And it's a guy that's Amish that's been putting in a lot of bids, but it is a concern with all this money in all across the state. Do we have enough contractors to get all the work done in, the next 4 years? That's a concern because this contractor we work with all the time, he's doing a lot of, projects that are not government cost shared and just farmers that want to do things. So he's busy with those also. So, yeah, that's a concern.
Yeah, thanks.
Carl, looks like a bunch of questions came in the chat. I'll try to overview them here. When do you foresee a training? Oh, this one I think would be for me. When do you see foresee a training for district staff on ACAP in the future? That's a great question, Trevor. We're working with the center on that right now. We don't have a set date, but that is their priority. So they're working on it. They're trying to get an agenda set for it right now. I know there's some boot camps coming up, and there's an what was that, Eric? Ag 101 training that is available or will be shortly. So we don't have a date at this point, but as soon as we can get that training going, we will.
Justin, let me ask you this question. Your trainings, are you looking to do it statewide or regional wise? And are you going to have any of those meetings in person? There's something to be said about meetings in person where you have a regional group of technicians where you're going to get a lot of questions, a lot of interaction with each other. So that's just my thoughts. I didn't know what your plans are.
They're still working on an agenda, and this is still very early on, but like personally, I would like to see like regional in person with a hybrid option for people who won't be able to make it. But mostly in person, regional, maybe 1 to 2 day training, similar to dirt and gravel road ESM training. I'd love to see 10 or 11 of those every year regionally throughout the state. Again, that's more of a long-term goal, but short term, we're hoping to just get that training put together and get it out there, and then we can start to expand that to regional based. If that makes sense.
Yep, good.
Carl, would you be willing to share that bid procedure outline?
Yes, I can send that to all the managers after this meeting. Yep, I can send it
Awesome.
there.
And do we have a copy of that?
Yeah, Eric has a copy.
Okay, perfect. So we might use some of that in the future. It'd
Right.
be handy to have. So thank you.
Yep.
Carl, does the farmer attend anything other than the site showing?
We have not had any farmers attend bid openings or anything, but they are welcome to if they just choose. They have chosen not to so far.
Okay, a follow-up. Who did you say opens the bids at that bid opening? Is there any requirement where the contractor needs to be located? Can bids be submitted from out-of-state contractors?
So yeah, I think anyone could bid, whether Pennsylvania or out of state, as far as I know. The contractors, the contractors really haven't. We've had a contractor or two show up, at the bid openings. And what was the other part? I might have forgot the other part of the question.
Is there any requirement where the contractor needs? Oh, that's just like where they would be housed. I think she's saying. I think you covered it.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Abby. I just wanted to, could you repeat who you said opens those bids at the bid opening? I kind of missed that.
Oh, so for our bid openings, our county solicitor opens it, and because he does it for a lot of the county bids, and we've asked him to come and do ours, and he enjoys, because we're in a building outside of town, and he enjoys coming out, so he opens ours. But I would recommend, somebody official like the manager or chairman, and also at least have a couple people from the conservation district there, not just one, so there's nothing can say we changed the bidding numbers or anything. So you have a couple people there official.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been very helpful.
Yep.
Looks like Sandy had a issue where they had to split the bid into 3 components for heavy use area, manure stacking, excavating, concrete, and roof. Sandy, you want to elaborate anything on that, or?
So we've gone through the bidding process, which is very similar to what Carl goes through and has outlined for you guys. In our county, we don't have anybody locally that will do concrete work or the roof, so that it meets the specs for NRCS. So we had to actually take our bid for the heavy use area and the manure stacking pad. So we have 3 components. We take bids for the excavating part of it, and bids for the concrete part of it, and then the bids for the roofing part of it. So that it sort of allows us, say we don't get any bids for one part of it, it sort of allows us to kind of continue to move on and then maybe have to rebid a part of that. Our concrete in the past few projects that we've done actually comes out of Center County. And then our roofing contractors come out of somewhere down around Harrisburg. So you're going to find that you're going to have contractors from all over the state and from outside of the state. So that's just how we've had to work it.
Sandy, those are good points, because we have done, we're excavating and the building roof heavy use area is one bid, and then we've split it out. We have one project right now where it's going to be a lagoon for the water after a digester. So the farmer wanted to have separate excavating and then one for the liner and the lagoon liner for the lagoon. So we have 2 bids on one project, one for excavating and one for just the liner, because the liner, obviously, you're just going to have probably one company or 2 at the most bid on that. and the excavating company wouldn't be familiar with that liner. So we have two separate bids on one project. So Justin, another question on, is there going to be a requirement of, so let's say phone solicitation or for quotes, a minimum number or not?
The federal rules say it has to be a reasonable number of bidders. They don't set a number. So I didn't see any number for like for sealed bids, and I didn't see a set number for like written quotes like for above under that 250. So we're working on it. We don't know exactly yet. So I could see if it's like sealed bids, and it's publicly advertised. I could see not setting a certain number. That way, if you only get one, you can run with it. You don't have to rebid it. But again, nothing's set in stone at this point.
Right. Our solicitor is experienced with sealed bids. One, you get one, that's sufficient. In the
Okay.
old Bay, just to let you know, in the old Bay program back in the 90s and stuff, I think in that AMID manual, they wanted, when it came to phone quotes or solicitation, you had to have three.
Okay.
But they allowed, if you contacted a contractor, if the farmer contacted a contractor and he said he didn't have time or didn't want to bid, that was accepted as one. So
Okay.
you could only have one number. It could be two contractors that said that they didn't want to bid and one contractor that gave you a bid, and that was sufficient.
Quick, just jumping in here, just let's see, Jessica Buck asked a question about whether the bidding guidelines, in this case would supersede the guidelines that the SEC would put out, if that would supersede what the county is doing. And that, may be something that we'd have to iron out with our council, but it's a good question. I was thinking the same, Carl, from your estimation, you were given advice from your solicitor that because of the size of county you are, that you would have to follow these certain requirements for any funding that came in to the county.
Right.
But, we'll have to iron that out when we put these bidding guidelines out. But it's a good question, Jessica. I was thinking the same thing. It's something that we'll have to get some feedback from our council on.
Yeah. I see there's a lot of like what if questions coming in, and again, there's nothing set at this point. I could see if we get approval to, they say, all right, the easiest way to do this is to have the commission draft their own bidding requirements. At that point, we would get district input. I'm not just going to write it and pass it through the commission. We would draft something, have advisory committee look at it, and then take it to the commission. So we can get input on all these what ifs at that point. And we don't have firm like Jess had a good point. Like, do the state or county rules supersede each other? We don't know at this point. I think the answer to that would be whichever one's more stringent. But we don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, but it is a good question that we'll have to get some guidance on. And
Yeah.
certainly I would think by the next time we meet as a group that we should have some firm guidelines in place on bidding. Because I know that projects, most likely that you have in the pipeline will be getting ready to be put out for bid by that time.
For sure. And that same for Chris. I see your question, and Brenda, the same thing. Again, we don't know. That's something we're still trying to hash out, and we'll take those questions into consideration if we have the ability to draft our own rules. So stay tuned.
Good
I
questions,
see.
everyone.
Yep. Another question came in, and this is related to another policy. Is the $500,000 cap on projects per project, per operator, per landowner, and is that per year, 3-year limit, or more? I'd have to go back and read it exactly how it was worded off of memory. I think we did it per applicant per year. Does that sound right, Eric?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Chris, I'll follow up with you on that. I'll make a note here and make sure I'll go back and read exactly how it's worded.
But Justin, we could be locally more restrictive if we wanted to say 500,000 for a 3-year period or a 5-year period. Is there any issue with that?
I don't know. I think you can be more restrictive than us. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we just want to make sure though that any requirements for projects that are less than $250,000 comply with the federal requirements since they're federal funds. So just let us get our handle on that and get some guidance on that.
There's kind of two different caps there, Doug. They're referring back to the $500,000 cap of ACAP funds put
Okay.
towards a project, not the bidding thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Oh, I see another question. Is there a template for an agreement between two districts to administer? Thanks, Trudy. No, we don't have a template. I did get some other agreements from some other counties. Can we meet maybe offline with you and whoever you're thinking of joining with, and we can get working on that? Maybe we can set up a meeting this week or next week to start talking through that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. If there's anybody else out there, that's a great, Trudy brings up a good point. If there's anybody else out there that's thinking of partnering with another district to administer this or run the program together, please let us know. I know there was a couple others that were thinking about it. Let's get together and really start to figure out how this will work and get some agreements put together. So let me know. We can set up a meeting and talk through it. So, thank you. Eric, do you want to do a brief update on your Q&A policy and admin manual?
Yep, I can do that. I have compiled all the questions and answers from the outreach that we had on the documents. We are putting that in the interim as an admin manual. That document is now, I believe, like 12 pages long. So we feel that it is time to get an admin manual together so we can iron out some of the issues that are coming up and give you guys guidance. So we're in the process of trying to switch over that question and answers document into an admin manual. We're also doing a policy on how you guys should proceed with the applications and things that you have to take care of. Other than that, I don't think there's too much more to add on to that. Justin, can you think of anything else?
Nope, I think that covered it. We'll get that Q&A out to you, and admin manual, stay tuned. I think that's the general point there. I see a couple more questions came in the chat. Does Davis-Bacon trump prevailing wage if partnered with a federal agency? So it's kind of complicated. In the Dirt and Gravel Road program, I know if Davis-Bacon rates are being paid, like it's actually a Davis-Bacon project, prevailing wage, the state labor and industry will defer to the federal government as long as it's being paid for the whole project. If it's a project that's partnered with a federal agency, but Davis-Bacon is not required by the federal government, then prevailing wage is required. So that's kind of the precedent. I think that's how they answer that, but we can run that through prevailing wage again and ask them just to verify, but I'm fairly certain that that's the answer. So either way, you got to pay one or the other, if that is an easy answer to that question. Another question, can you speak a little to the certification of BMPs? We don't have an engineer or NRCS. We have low activity for REAP and AgriLink. This will need to be done up front before bidding. Thank you. I'm not, Eric, you're more familiar with certifying BMPs than I am. You want to try, or we can get back to it and we can discuss that more?
I can try a little bit. I mean, you're going to have a project. There's going to be some engineering drawings. I would have whoever engineered that. I would have it in a contract that they would come back and certify those BMPs that were implemented and as designed. I think Carl touched a little bit about that on with his bidding and stuff like that, as such as like a private engineer. So I think they have them sign something. Is that correct, Carl?
Yeah, we have them sign a form stating that the engineer, if it's a TSP, is responsible for the construction oversight and signing off on BMPs that they were built to NRCS standards and specs. So we have them sign that before the project starts.
I believe Donna has a question in there too. I think
Yep.
that you said before the ACAP was not to be considered for Davis-Bacon, correct?
Yeah, Donna, thanks. That's a great clarification to make. We have received determination that ACAP funds are not subject to Davis-Bacon, but they are prevailing wage, which points back to that original conversation. Like if there's another federal grant you're working with that does require Davis-Bacon, then that would trump prevailing wage. But in our case, NRCS does not pay Davis-Bacon rates. We're not required through ACAP to pay them. Therefore, prevailing wage would apply. Hopefully that answers that a little bit more, covers that. But yeah, great question, and thank you for letting me clarify that. Appreciate it. Okay. We ready to move on to everybody's favorite topic? Last thing on the agenda, the stream setback policy. Eric, can you bring up that document we had written up? Okay, perfect. So a little history here. I'm sure a lot of you are aware at this point. The last commission meeting in December, we had drafted a rough outline of an idea of a setback policy. We took it to the commission to get their idea on how they felt we should handle setbacks with buffers. The original policy there at the top, you can read it. It basically said if ACAP is funding some of the what they call Cadillac BMPs, like heavy use area protection, waste storage BMPs, those kind of Cadillac things, that we would require a 35-foot setback on streams on the property where the BMP is being installed. We added a paragraph about access to stream or water on the farm, so we had a nice stable access for them to get to a stream. And we also wrote in a waiver that the commission had the ability to waiver that requirement. We discussed it with the commission in December. Several districts reached out to me to let me know their opinion on this policy and how they thought we should go. Based on those conversations, we tried to, Eric and I and Doug got together and racked our brains and tried to come up with a compromise here between what we were hearing from the districts and what we're hearing from other parties involved. And we wrote this proposed policy at the bottom. You can see the additions highlighted in yellow. I'll go over them here in a second. We took this proposed policy to our advisory work group last week. I think it was last week.
Yep. Yep.
To discuss with them. And generally, we added a couple easy additions, I think, that make this palatable, hopefully, for everyone. It might not be a dream policy for everybody out there, but I think it's a fairly good compromise. And we added when a buffer is required by the applicant's Ag E&S plan, conservation plan, nutrient management, or manure management plan, and they're getting that animal waste storage or heavy use area, they're getting that Cadillac BMP, at that point, we would require an average of a 35-foot setback. I think that provides the leeway, I hope, that we were all looking for. I know it's not no policy, but it is a policy that gets us those environmental benefits of that 35-foot setback, while also limiting it to areas where that buffer is required by the plan. And that was a suggestion from the State Conservation Commission at the December call. So we ran with that and put that into our idea there. And we also added we wanted to clarify that access to water was required. Like we didn't want to have a farm put in a stream crossing when they had a watering system or they were providing a watering system just to put it in because the policy mandated it. So we clarified that a little bit. The ACAP advisory committee generally liked this policy. I know everybody not every single person is thrilled with it. Seems like either side may be able to come to a compromise here and live with this as a good working policy. I'm open to consideration at this point. We are planning on taking this proposed policy to the commission at the January meeting. I think it's January 24th. I can look at my calendar and
Yep, that's correct.
verify that.
Yeah.
At this point, the advisory committee seemed to be in agreement that they could live with this. I had several districts email me and say, yep, that seems like a good compromise. So I'm planning on moving forward with this at the commission meeting, but I'm open to hear any opinions from everybody in this group as well.
Keeping in mind that we recognize both sides to this, but this was our way of coming up with a compromise that, as Justin said, we felt was workable. So hopefully it's something that you all agree as well is good. I know it's not perfect for some, but at least it's something that I think we can live with. But as Justin mentioned, we welcome your thoughts on it, now.
This is Trevor from Mifflin County. I'm just bringing up, I appreciate putting that plan statement in there because I think, that really drives a solution based on the ground. What does this operation need? And it gives the ability in that plan to really address the critical issues. I think I mentioned at another meeting with some managers that, over my short time at the district, I see our plans becoming very programmatic. And I understand, a reason for that. There's laws out there and requirements we have to meet. But I think, this plan, if we reference, the great old Hugh Hammond Bennett video, it's a plan for the farmer by the farmer to put conservation on the ground and achieve conservation benefits. So I appreciate putting that statement in there about, if it's required in the plan, because I think we really need to get back to making sure these plans are a site-by-site basis and addressing the critical issues on each operation.
Thanks, Trevor. I appreciate that. Anyone else have any input or opinions? I'm all ears.
Well, this is John in Cambria. I think that's a pretty reasonable compromise. I'm just curious as to where the push for requiring the setback was coming from. I'm not really sure if
there's the push comes from, there's some private sector individuals who were pushing that, as well as NRCS would like us to match their requirements to make things more equitable across both programs. We do rely on NRCS. Some counties rely on NRCS for a lot of things, and we try to keep them. They're going to help out very, very much with this program across the state, and so mimicking their policy to keep requirements similar was their opinion, and they thought that would be a good idea. So there was some push there as well.
Okay. Yeah, I just would be in that this is a state program and not a federal program, that, we are very cautious of, bending to, because we have no input as to what their guidelines are. And I just want to make sure that, our concerns were heard. But I think this is, a reasonable compromise.
Yeah, I feel like I heard your concerns and tried to draft, we tried to draft a policy that listened to those. I know it's not perfect, but this is what we came up with at this point. In some, in a district perfect world, there would be no policy, but fortunately, we have to take other things into consideration, and I feel like this is a pretty good working compromise, and to get this program going and get it on the ground. So,
and keeping in mind, we'll have the commission weigh in on this, and their thoughts will certainly drive the outcome here.
Yep. At the end of the
Justin
day, it's
or
their
Doug,
choice.
can you send that policy act to us? As we know it's a draft and understand that.
Yep.
But if we're going to
Yeah.
our boards before
Sure.
the, the commission meeting, we at least have this information.
No
Yeah,
problem.
for sure. Yep, we can get it to you. Eric, can you add that to the list of things to send out with the follow-up stuff? And yeah, thanks, Chris. If a district out there wants to set that as their local policy, depending on what the commission decides, if you want to be more stringent than how we have it written, by all means, you can be more stringent than that. That's a great point to make. Sean, if a district is hiring someone to administer the program, would we be able to be reimbursed until December 31st of 26? I believe yes is the answer to that. Doug, what do you think?
Yes, yes, it would
Nothing would
be.
inhibit that, right?
I mean, that's correct. I think, we're talking about committed versus spent with funds. And I think if we have funds committed, you'd be able to spend them on BMPs or technical or admin on your end. I mean, there's some concerns on our end that we're trying to work through with, with the admin portion for staffing by the end of 2024, but I don't think that relates to, your ability to use those funds.